and I would like to call the Rock County Board of Supervisors meeting to order at this time. Next item of business is invocation and pledge of allegiance by Supervisor Woodman. Would you all stand, please?
Father God, guide us tonight in our decisions. Guide this board to be the leaders that we need to be. Though this world seems to be in turmoil, we know that you always guide us. Lead us to follow your truth, and it makes us a better board, individuals, and human beings. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is roll call. Bob Zine. Here. Belke.
Present.
Bostwick.
here.
Bryan.
Here.
Cullen. Fugelseth. Here. Gorman.
Present.
Pullman.
Here.
Knutson. Marshall.
Here.
Mulwiney.
Here.
Peer.
Present.
Pennycook.
Here.
Rashkin.
Here.
Ringhan.
Here.
Ryan.
Here.
Schneider. Scholes.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
Stevens.
Here.
Stone.
Here.
Sutter.
Here.
Sutherland.
Here.
Tillman. Towns. Whitledge.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Woodman.
Here.
Levy.
Here.
27 present, 2 absent.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, item 4, consent agenda. 4A, adoption of agenda. B, approval of minutes from May 22nd, 2025. C1, appointments to the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. C2, appointment to the Housing Authority. D1, recognizing Bruce Holcomb. D2, recognizing Mark Donaldson. E1, awarding the contract for the renovation of the Fairgrounds Grandstand. That's the end of the consent agenda.
Would any supervisor like anything removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve? Motion by Bostwick, second by Tillman. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Next item, please.
Next item, public hearing. We do not have a public hearing this evening. Item 6, citizen participation, communications, and announcements. We do have several people signed up to speak this evening. When I call your name, please come up through the center to avoid the screen on the side. Please state your name and municipality. You'll be given 2 minutes to speak when the buzzer goes off, and then please complete your sentence. First speaker is Kelsey Hood Christensen. On deck is Heidi Deiniger.
Good evening. Kelsey Hood Christensen, Beloit, Wisconsin. I'm the president and CEO of Family Services of Southern Wisconsin and Northern Illinois. And I'm speaking tonight alongside several other nonprofits to urge you maintain a centralized administration of the community initiative funds under the county administrator's office. You've heard from many of us, especially the staffing committee, about the real risks we see in decentralizing these funds. Strains collaboration, fragmented oversight, increased administrative burden on the nonprofits and the department heads, and potentially jeopardizing funding. Tonight, I'd like to share with you one of the stories that illustrate what's possible with a strong collaboration with our Rock County departments. In early 2024, 2 children under the age of 9 came to the attention of Rock County CPS. They were being trafficked and they didn't have a safe place to stay. A family member contacted their out-of-state parent, who immediately came to Rock County without a job, without employment, without really a plan, just to keep their children safe. Thanks to the collaboration between our human trafficking survivor advocate and Rock County CPS, we co-served this family. We helped them secure housing, navigate the requirements, and safely reunify. These children are now in school, safely housed, with an employed parent and many extended family members, the place that they need to be to start healing from the trauma that they have experienced. And the CPS case was successfully closed. This is one of many stories where we have co-served alongside Rock County departments. And centralizing the administration of these funds under the county administrator allows us to keep the focus on these families. not on departmental confusion or bureaucracy. It gives your department heads and our nonprofits more time to do the work that matters. If the goals of these funds is to support addressing community needs, then let's not create new barriers. Let's support the ability to meet these needs seamlessly and without additional risk or burden by keeping administration with a single party, the county administrator. Thank you.
Thank you. Heidi Deininger, and on deck is Cindy Browning.
Good evening, supervisors. I'm Heidi Deininger from the town of Union, and I proudly serve as the executive director for the YWCA Rock County. First of all, thank you for the work you do to make our county a great place to live here in Wisconsin. And thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about the future of the community initiative funding. At the YWCA, we support survivors of violence, children impacted by abuse, and families in crisis every day. They are urgent, local, and deeply human issues in our community. Our work is built on trust, rapid response, and decades of coordinations with the county systems. What allows us to do that effectively is stability. Centralized community initiative funding gives us the clarity plan, the consistency to respond, and the flexibility to collaborate across departments. When we're supporting a survivor who needs shelter, a child who needs an interview, or family navigating the justice system, we act. We believe that potentially fragmenting this funding into department by department pots would complicate that response. It adds more steps, more uncertainty, and more time. But this is more about preserving a process. It's about protecting the impact of what we do. When funding remains centralized, we can focus on what matters, delivering services that save lives and strengthen systems. We're open to new ideas, to new tools, to MOUs, to reporting updates, even new metrics, but we need a model that supports our work. I respectfully urge you to keep this funding united and allow organizations like ours to keep showing up where and when we're needed the most. Thank you.
Cindy Browning, and on deck is Brittany De La O.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cindy Browning. I'm the Executive Director for the Retired Senior Volunteer Program, RSVP of Rock County, and I reside in Beloit, Wisconsin. I'm here tonight in partnership with the other nonprofits that you just heard. I wanted to first say thank you to the committee for advocating and supporting continued funding for the Community Initiatives Policy. RSVP, for those of you who are unaware, provides support to older adults that help them age in place. We provided over 30,000 hours of transportation to doctor visits, pharmacies, and essential errands. RSVP volunteers also tutor and mentor struggling children, making classrooms stronger and more connected. Last year, there was over $1 million value in community volunteer time. 622 seniors received life-sustaining rides. 279 children were supported in classrooms, and the county investment is multiplied through state, city, and federal funding that we receive through our agency. We're here tonight in hopes to advocate for those funds to maintain within the county administrator's budget, in hopes for us to be able to provide these vital services. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for your continued partnership.
Brittany De La O.
Hello and good evening. My name is Brittany De La O. I live in the town of Harmony, and I'm here on behalf of YWCA Rock County, alongside fellow nonprofit leaders to express strong support for preserving centralized administration of the Rock County Community Initiatives funding. We're not here to resist change. We're here to ensure that change strengthens and doesn't disrupt. Our shared goal is to protect the structure that enables essential, cost-effective, and collaborative services across Rock County. YWCA Rock County provides critical interventions that prevent high-cost outcomes, keeping survivors safe, children protected, and families housed. National data shows that child advocacy centers, like our Care House, save over $1,000 per case in investigative costs. We saw 133 kids last year. And that each domestic violence incident prevented saves nearly $7,000 in public expense. These programs ease strain on courts, law enforcement, and healthcare systems. Our longstanding partnership with departments like Human Services, law enforcement, and public health are key to that impact. Centralized funding supports how we already work, collaboratively and efficiently. Moving this funding into separate departments risks slowing response, increasing red tape, and making dollars harder to use as match for state and federal grants, which would limit services and outside investment in Rock County. We support transparency and welcome contracts or reporting enhancements, but we urge you to maintain centralized administration because fragmentation doesn't increase accountability, it compromises coordination. Thank you for your time and for your commitment to building a stronger, safer Rock County.
That was the last speaker that signed up. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak that hasn't signed up this evening? Oh. That's fine.
Good evening. I'm Kath Crowley-Kahn with Heritage Rock County. We are representing 5 different organizations throughout Rock County that serve the citizens and the youth of the county to provide a really strong sense of place, a sense of identity, and a sense of belonging through our programs that illustrate the history of Rock County and really celebrate the people who make it work, who come together and make it work. We're here in support of the proposal and the idea that you heard from our colleagues here. The centralized services will really speed up the delivery. Our programming is not as dire as my colleagues' programming. There's no way I can make that case. But what we can say is that research proves that when your citizens and residents feel a sense of belonging, a sense of pride, and an understanding of why it's important to work together, that really has beneficial impacts to all the other services like they're providing and that the county provides as well. So we are here to thank you for the past support because we're reaching over 25,000 individuals a year and urge you to consider the proposal. Thank you.
Can you fill out the sheet with your name in? Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak this evening?
Seeing none, thank you. Is there any communication from supervisors? Supervisor Boswick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My church's Gifts Men's Shelter 2-week hosting run ends this Sunday. It's gone very, very well. And I would like to say thanks to Supervisors Pennycook, Schultz, and Schneider for providing evening supervision. And a special shout out that goes to Supervisor Wilson, whose Saturday is coming up in 2 days. It looks like this, from 8 until noon. He's going to be out at the Daniel Hale Williams Center with the for the retreat. Then from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock, he's doing the evening supervision at the shelter. Then from 9 o'clock till 6 a.m., he's doing the overnight supervision. So that's a big, big day, and all I want to say is wow and thank you, thank you.
Any other communications? Supervisor Mawini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to take a few moments and recognize Floyd Finney and Tom Presney for their service to the Rock County Parks Advisory Committee. Floyd has served for 25 years and Tom 27 years. They've been involved in all the parks, always at the ready to help when needed. They have both decided to retire, which is kind of unfortunate because there's a lot of history going down with that. The parks will miss them and all their knowledge. Thank you, Tom and Floyd. I would also like to recognize Eagle Scout Jacob Jorgensen for rehabbing the area around the fire pit by the main hall. He rebuilt a lot of the stuff and spent lots of hours there. He did an excellent job. Also, Eagle Scout Jaden Upham did a shelter rehab at the Pine Pavilion. And again, did an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other supervisor? Supervisor Stone?
I would just like to encourage you all to go see a movie called American Miracle. It's about the founding of America. Was it just a coincidence or was it divine intervention? So, good movie.
Thank you. Any other supervisor? Seeing none, is there any communication from staff?
Yes, just a couple announcements real quick. You all know this weekend's your county board retreat on Saturday morning. We also just want to let you know that there are a couple of committee vacancy advertisements that we're publishing. We have 2 terms expiring on the Parks Advisory Committee. Application period for those interested is June 18th. We also have openings on the Disabled Parking Enforcement Council. Any interested parties need to apply before June 30th. And we also have 6 terms expiring on 7/31 of 25 for the Local Emergency Management Planning Commission. Application period for anyone interested in those, it closes on July 11th. And that's all the announcements.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item. Item 7, nominations, appointments, and confirmations. We have already taken care of those. Item 8, recognition of county employees or others. A, recognizing Brenda Alton for service to Rock County.
There motion? Motion by Schwartz, is there a second? Second by Mawini. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Supervisor Tillman?
Well, good evening. It's my honor and my privilege to recognize Brenda Alton on her service to Rock County and her retirement. I'm going to share with you the resolution. Whereas Brenda Alton began her employment with Rock County on November 13th, 1995. She was hired by Wayne Pfister as a deputy clerk of court in the Small Claims Division. And whereas Brenda began working at the Beloit Courthouse, how many of us remember the Beloit Courthouse? During the time that there was a courthouse in both Beloit and Janesville, clerking for the Honorable J. Richard Long. And whereas Brenda accepted a position as a deputy clerk in the Juvenile Division in January of 1998, she clerked juvenile cases between 1998 and 2023 for the Honorable John Lusso, the Honorable Richard Werner, the Honorable Alan Bates, and the Honorable Michael Hawkinson. And whereas Brenda played an integral role in assuring that thousands of juvenile cases were properly processed and maintained within the court system for that period of time. And whereas Brenda was promoted to supervisor of the Family Juvenile Division by Clerk of Court Eldred Milkey in July of 2011, and served in that capacity until January of 2023, when she was appointed as a supervisor of the Civil Division by Clerk of Court Jackie Gackstetter in January of 2023. And whereas Brenda was assigned to clerk primarily for the Honorable Daniel T. Dillon from 2017 to 2022, from whom she learned it doesn't cost a dime to be kind. And whereas in addition to her other duties, Brenda was the jury clerk from 2018 through 2022, seamlessly processing prospective jurors through the jury process. And whereas Brenda was the go-to person for anyone, attorneys, co-workers, court staff, general public, for the many years for questions on how to do anything ranging from appeals to small claims, juvenile or family matters, or anything in between. And whereas, based on her impeccable work history, knowledge, and dedication to the court system, Brenda was asked to join the probate office in February of 2023 as a deputy register in probate, where she has assisted the public until her retirement. And whereas Brenda has always displayed a high level of honesty and integrity
in all aspects of her career with Rock County, while also being kind, thoughtful, and patient to the members of the public to whom she provided assistance, as well as to the countless coworkers that she trained over the last 30 years. And whereas Brenda is highly respected by those who have had the honor to work with her, and whereas Brenda will retire from Rock County, or has retired from Rock County, on June 5th, 2025, after 30 years of service to the court system and Rock County. Now therefore be it resolved that the Rock County Board of Supervisors, duly assembled this 12th day of June 2025, does hereby recognize Brenda Alton for her 30 years of dedication and commitment, and recommends that a sincere expression of appreciation be given to Brenda, along with best wishes for her in retirement. Brenda, I'm proud of you. You're somebody that I knew and admired from Commissioner Timmerman might have a couple things she wants to say.
Good evening. My name is Jody, and I am the Register in Probate. And I just want to acknowledge a little further Brenda, because the words are all very true, but they really don't give you the full essence of who Brenda is. And I think I can do this. When you work somewhere like Rock County with as many employees as Rock County has, every now and then, you're lucky enough to find the go-to person, the person who knows everybody, who gets along with everybody, which is hard to do, and who knows how to do everything. For the last 30 years, Brenda has been my go-to person in very different capacities, because we're a little bit older now than we were when we started. But not just my go-to person, she was the go-to person for every, and I'm not exaggerating, every single person that worked in the clerk of court's office, every person that came to the window when somebody didn't have a question, you know who they went to? They went to Brenda. For every single judge. So I stole her. It was the steal of the year in 2023 when I talked her into leaving the clerk of court's office to come to the probate office. And I know for a fact that if Judge Dillon had not been retired, and Judge Dillon is looking over her shoulder right now, and that is completely appropriate because the two of them had a very, very special relationship. He would not have let you leave him because she clerked primarily for him toward the end of his career. He would not have let me take you. And the judges were not happy that I stole her, but like I said, it was the absolute steal of the year. And she processed the juries, and you don't know how much work goes into bringing 100 people or more than 100 people into this courthouse all at the same time to be in the same room to be a potential jury pool. And Brenda did it without a hitch every single time. Anytime there was a question about how to do an appeal with the Court of Appeals, and those people are scary. If you don't do it right, they are scary. If anybody had a question, you go to Brenda. Of my entire career, I've gone to Brenda. And the other thing about being the go-to person is that being the go-to person is exhausting, not just physically, but emotionally. And never once, and she's going to tell me this isn't true, but it's true, never once was she in a bad mood, was she angry, was she short, was she rude. No matter what any day has ever given her in her entire career here, she has been positive and optimistic and helpful and happy. And I don't know how she did that, especially working with me. But you have always done that. You are not replaceable. You know, sometimes I will say, the last time I was here, I'd say, people, when we leave, people forget and you're gone and it's like you never worked here. Sadly, that's true. That is not going to be the case for you. We are always going to remember you, and I'll probably text you randomly at 7:30 in the morning just to wake you up. Okay? So, thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to say anything?
Thank you for the opportunity to serve the citizens of Rock County the last 30 years. So, thank you.
Awesome job. Congratulations.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 9, introduction of new resolutions or ordinances by supervisors for referral to appropriate committee.
At this time, if there's any supervisors with a new ordinance or resolution you'd like to present, please bring it forward at this time. Seeing none, next item, please.
Item 10, reports. 10A, Rock County Fair presentation.
I think we have Mary Check and Ryan George coming forward to present.
Could you push podium lectern? Oh, never mind. It's on, sorry. It's on.
First of all, my name is Ryan George. I'm the president of the Rock County 4-H Fair Association. I have with me Mary Check, who is our only year-round full-time employee. She is the manager of the Rock County 4-H Fair. I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors for allowing us to come here and talk to you a little bit about what's near and dear to our heart, the Rock County 4-H Fair. So we are an association made up of volunteers. We put on the Rock County 4-H Fair last week of July every year for almost 100 years. We're soon approaching that great landmark of the fair for 100 years. Average attendance, it says here 65,000. That's really 65,000 plus. A good year, an average year, 85,000 people we bring to the fairgrounds. An excellent year, we're above 100,000 people that we bring into the fair. A good portion of those are outside of the Rock County. Our biggest draw outside of the county would be to the south along the I-90 corridor. From South Beloit into the Rockford area is our biggest outside of the county draw into the county for the 4-H Fair every year. Our mission is to provide learning and leadership opportunities for the youth of Rock County. I believe that the fair and the 4-H and FFA program that makes up those exhibitors of the fair really does an excellent job of creating those leaders. I see a few of you supervisors here in front of me that came through that program and exhibited at the fair. And when you look around our municipality boards and our township boards, there's lots and lots of members and leaders of our community that have come through this program. So I really do believe that we're doing a good job of creating those leaders. One of the big things that those exhibitors of the fair bring, and Randy Thompson, a longtime county employee, has always coined that our auction program that we do here at the fair is the largest youth scholarship program in the state of Wisconsin. We're raising over $700,000 for these animal exhibitors that are at the fair every year, and 97% of that money is going right to the kid that is paying for their education and furthering their enrichment and what they're getting from the fair.
So as Ryan said, I'm Mary Check, and I'm the manager at the fair. So our direct economic contributions. So we get many sponsors from local businesses. We get businesses outside of Rock County that sponsor our fair. We advertise our fair all over the state of Wisconsin through the Department of Ag and the Wisconsin Association of Fairs. We have 140 plus vendors. So that's vendors that are selling items, promoting their business, a nonprofit business that's there to, get the word out about their business. 32 food vendors. We cap our food vendors at 32. We could have 132 if we wanted to, but we want everybody to make money off the fair and have a profitable fair business when they're there for the 6 days. So we cap that at 32. Our seasonal employees, these are the volunteers and the seasonal ones that we hire to work our gates. They're working the gates, they're working through some of the staff at my office. They are, come in for the 6 days and work their little hearts off and then leave and say, well, we'll see you next year. So I hire 3 to 4 people that work in my office all summer, but for the majority, our employees, the 6 grounds crew, the 3 that I hire, and then all the rest are the gate staff. So indirect benefits, all our vendors that are not local, which is probably more than half, are staying at the campgrounds and hotels. That's their locations while they're here. I know there's a campground in Milton where they all stay, and it's a section of the campgrounds that is actually sectioned off for all the fair vendors to stay at, so they have quite a reputation up there. Retail sales, well, all our food vendors, for the most part, buy everything local. So they're out to the stores or the suppliers every morning getting their supplies to get them through the day. So they are all shopping local. They're not transporting their supplies with them. Tourism increase, and again, like I said, we advertise all over the state. The state puts out a brochure. All our information about Rock County Fair is in there. We advertise in a lot of magazines throughout the state, and then as well as a lot of social media. And the effects across Rock County will, I know several businesses back when we had quite a big entertainment a few years ago, there was quite a few businesses on Milton Avenue that had to shut down because they had run out of food. So, and just on a day-to-day, when you have 70, 80,000 people coming to the fair, they all have to buy gas somewhere or pick up a soda on their way out of town or in town. So that's what they bring to the County of Rock. So our investments in our agriculture. We have over 15,000 youth exhibitors or 1,500 youth exhibitors at our fair. I think this year, when I looked yesterday, we are up over almost 10,000 exhibits that those 1,500 kids bring to our fair. Educational programs, there's livestock, of course, is quite the popular items at our fair, but we also run with photography, which is our most popular project at the fair, and that's across the state with other fairs. Cultural arts is right in line with photography, so they're, all these kids are getting educated in all areas of future life experiences. And then our industries, the kids that are involved in a 4-H or an FFA program or a school program, they're learning leadership and responsibilities that most kids don't have the opportunity to learn, and they're involved in the community engagement, so they go on to be great citizens for future Rock County and for businesses in Rock County.
Our long-term community impact, our association, we have helped maintain and have invested over $100,000 in upgrades into the buildings and facilities at the fairgrounds in the last 4 or 5 years. But that's really been a long time. Our association members and leaders take a lot of pride in our grounds and have volunteered and have done building projects and really have a lot of ownership in the grounds and continue to help maintain it and take pride. And that's really what the fair is community pride. And I like to think that all the other fairs in the state of Wisconsin are jealous of the Rock County 4-H fair, because we really do have a special fair. The main thing is that I'd like to invite everybody here, all supervisors, to the 96th Rock County 4-H Fair, like always, the last week of July, the 22nd through the 27th. We do offer a heavily discounted season pass to all of our supervisors, so please stop into the office and see Mary, and you can get that season pass for a 70% savings. She's there from 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, but make sure you stop in and get it before the fair starts. And go to our website. We've got great entertainment. We spend a lot of money to bring good entertainment to Rock County, so feel free to come see our free shows, our free grandstand, and come to the fair. Lastly, I'd like to thank all the county board supervisors here for the opportunity to utilize and to take pride in the fairgrounds and to let us continue to make the fair important for Rock County. I'd also like to thank all of our volunteers and sponsors and everybody that helps make the fair happen, from employees to the residents of Rock County that show up and support the fair. I just really appreciate what we have, and I hope everybody appreciates what we have here in Rock County for a fair. Certainly would like to open the floor for any questions. If Mary has anything to add?
No, I'm good.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for that presentation. Next item, please.
Next item, 10B, presentation on county facilities.
Brent?
No, that's good. Just to go through the pages, and then when I get to the movie, I just connect it. Okay. Thanks, I appreciate it. Hello, so later on this evening, you guys are going to be making a decision on the healthcare center building. So what I wanted to do is take an opportunity to give a 5-minute overview of how we got to where we are today, and especially for those that don't know the process that we've gone through, and then for some of those that do know, it's just kind of an overview. So the healthcare center building, I do have a slide up here that shows just the floor plan, and I can go through all the floor plans. But it was built in 1972 as a psychiatric hospital. There's five floors plus ground, and it's a block structure with a brick veneer. We actually had downsized it and actually started to use it instead of for psychiatric hospital. We started using it for nursing home residents. And at that time, we had 350 residents that were between Rock Haven and the healthcare center, which then we reduced it down to 180, then 150, then 120. And then what we did is we started occupying the vacant space. So human services was always on second floor as a support services. So then we expanded into third floor. Fifth floor was our IT department. We had medical examiner up there as well. And then we had emergency management in the ground level. Emergency management was moved from the fifth floor where IT was at, moved down. So what we did is we had, in 2017, we did an assessment and evaluation. I hired Angus Young to look at the building and do an analysis to do renovations to that building because human services needed to expand, and there was a vacant floor on 4th. And what that analysis told us is it would cost us, because of this block structure and the integrity of it, would cost us more money to renovate that than it would be to tear it down and build a new. And even if we renovated it at a higher cost, we still couldn't get the same efficiencies, because part of that, if you can see in this building, when I go down through here on the different floors, you'll see there's columns, there's concrete columns that go all the way up to support it. So everything you'd have to build it around those columns. So that's where we would lose our ability to create the same efficiency as what we did with our human services building out there on Center Avenue. So then with that being said, the county board supervisors had came forward and said, well, I think we need to not just look at this study just of the healthcare center. Let's look at all of our county facilities. So in 2018, we did a facilities-wide master plan looking at all of our facilities. And so once again, we analyzed the healthcare center building on our ability to renovate that, this time with Venture Architects. And the results were the same. So we had the same results that said it's going to cost you more money to renovate this building and you still won't get the efficiencies. And if you tore it down and built new, it would cost you less money. You'd have more efficiencies built into that. So with that being said, as part of the master plan, once we created our new locations for all of our different departments that were located in that building, then it was scheduled in 2024, we were going to do the abatement of the hazardous material. And then in 2025, we would actually demo that building and leave a buildable site. That's where we are here now. A resolution came forward in '24. A resolution came forward requesting the county to look at the options of viable options to hire a consultant to see if there was an opportunity to create a multifamily housing, look at what the best use of that property would be, work with the city. And so in that request, we did follow that procedure. And then the end of '24, first thing we did is we did an appraisal of the building. And the appraisal came back and says, you know, your best use, the way it sits like that, would be a multifamily would be the best use. But it said that the value of the property without the building on there is $520,000 is a value. The building has zero value. So with that being said, that's where we had moved forward to. The next step was to look at viable options. So we solicited out to 10 different developers that would take on a project this size and solicit to get input on their ability and interest in the building. And that's kind of where we're at now. This healthcare center building is located right in the middle of our Highway 51 complex. And what it does is I'll show you a video and give you an opportunity, an aerial video, to kind of see the proximity of where the healthcare center sits compared to the rest of our county facilities. And you can see the floor plan. There's, you can see the long corridors. That's what makes it inefficient, our ability to go down through and work through there. The building was actually designed where they've got, you know, just conditioned air in the hallways and not in the rooms. So there's quite a bit to it, much more than that. But if you want to show that video, I would like you to all see the proximity of where this healthcare center fits within our complex.
You want us to start, you go over here, if we want to pause it, just push the arrow right there to pause it.
Yep. So you'll see here, this is our nursing home complex that was built in 2013 to replace our 1962 building. And then as we're scanning across, you can see the healthcare center building just to the left, and you can see the sheriff's office, law enforcement, jail to the right. I'm gonna stop a couple of the things here as I can kind of show you. If you can also look, is right below, you see that communication tower? We just moved that over. That was right in the middle of the Pinehurst building. And then right below there, you've got the maintenance garage. The medical examiner's building was, and I don't know if they can actually show the little pointer. This here, can you see that? So that's where the current medical examiner's garage was. This will become the facilities management garage. And then this is a maintenance garage. And then over here is our file storage that we have for the buildings. This is the healthcare center building. And then this is your law enforcement services. This is your jail. And then we'll continue to go on through here. I guess I could have talked as it was coming around, but I wanted to catch those buildings there where we get, so. You can see where the gravel is there. That's where the old Pinehurst was. That's what's left of it. This video was just done here a few days ago. The orangest thing is our new IT department and data center, which is attached to the 911. And now across, you're seeing in the middle of the woods there, that's the new medical examiner's office is that back building. And then the front one is the UW extension. And then farther out is the health department. And you can see that the awkwardness of the location right within the middle of the county complex it puts it in a difficult spot there is all. And we'd like you to be able to kind of see the proximity of where that building sits among the other county-owned buildings. This won't take too much longer. It's just about done, so. And that's the end of my report. Questions? This again will be discussed a little bit later in the meeting. but I just wanted to give this high-level overview of open public so you had an idea. Okay.
Are there any questions on the site? Seeing none, thank you for that presentation. Next item, please.
Next item, 11, new business. 11C, reforming community agency initiatives appropriations policy.
Is there a motion? Motion by Schwartz, second by Tillman. Supervisor Towns? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a month or so ago, Supervisor Schwartz and Sutter introduced a resolution to discontinue the practice of unrestricted charitable contributions in our budget by using tax levy dollars. And this resolution does not, as I've heard spoken tonight, does not discontinue purchasing services from community agencies. But this practice, the way we've done it, has been questioned every budget since I've been on the county board. And the way Rock County has handled this has also been questioned across the state enough over the past few years, as well as not just Rock County, but other counties too, that the Wisconsin Office of Attorney General has rendered an opinion that questions the legality of the way we do it. And it's been questioned enough that the Wisconsin Counties Association held an in the boardroom webinar about 6 weeks ago on the topic that provided legal guidance for county boards. And I think you were all provided with the link to watch that webinar by the chair. And so without going into depth on why this practice is a gray area at best, I'm going to summarize what I took out of that webinar from the Wisconsin Counties Association Legal Counsel. And they suggest that any tax dollars that are given to a community agency for services rendered should have an identified public purpose, and that purpose is authorized by statute, that you can trace it back to a statute. Secondly, that the tax dollars that are given to community agencies for services should be documented and either named in a contract or at least a written memorandum of understanding. And third, how will the public purpose be monitored or documented? You should have a plan for that. And in some cases, that might require a resolution. I also realize that these community organizations have provided great service to our county, and they fill in gaps in our current departments are not always set up to do. And so that was kind of the sticking point a year ago when we did the budget, and we said we would talk about it this year, so that's what this discussion is about. So when I talked with the other supervisors, Schwartz and Sutter, about their, and while I agree the way we distribute the tax dollars to charitable organizations is questionable, my view was I was hoping to find a way to leave the door open to some of the specific services that have a defined public purpose, and they didn't disagree with that. They were willing to go along with that. And this would include identifying specific services that are required within appropriate departmental budgets and purchasing the service either via a contract or a memorandum of understanding. This purchase service would then become part of the appropriate departmental budget and would be monitored by that department head who requested the contract to make sure it was accomplished. This action would provide the documentation of public purpose and the mechanism for review for the necessity of the program. And so I guess I'm trying to find a way that we can continue to use some of the fine services that our community agencies provide here in Rock County without having it at some point being called into question that we're using tax dollars and we don't really know exactly what's being purchased with them. And so I would move that we I would move this resolution forward and ask that we maybe neaten up our process in the budget a little bit.
Okay. Any other supervisor? Supervisor Wilson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've spent a lot of time in the last, I guess, month and a half since the issue was first raised about the community initiatives. And the first thing that I did was to go through the 2024 budget and to follow up on each of the allocations in terms of their statutory authority. And frankly, I was surprised at how strong the statutory authority was for everything. Going into it, actually sort of questioned a couple of them and found that kind of each one nails it, that the authority is there in multiple different ways. The next thing in terms of studying it, I think really came the County Board Staff Committee. A lot of the agencies showed up, and we had requested additional information as to what those agencies actually do. I found that information amazing. There were letters of support for the services from the sheriff, from the district attorney, from police chiefs, from judges, from Mercy Health, from some of our own departments, Veteran Services, the WIC program, from schools, the Beloit Schools Homeless Liaison, all came out supporting different services that were provided. I really do understand that the intent of the resolution that's on the floor isn't to discontinue that. And I would agree, I also watched the County Boards Association presentation a couple of times, as I think several members of the County Board Staff Committee did. There probably is a need for memorializing what these agencies do in the way of either a contract or an MOU. However, that said, I think that there may be a better way of doing this than what is being presented. I think an opportunity has come up because of bringing this to the floor. I think it's a very good thing that we're having this discussion. But the opportunity that came up was probably a more vigorous coordination and collaboration between the agencies that are receiving funding than we've seen before. A lot of these agencies do have services that are complementary, and so there's conversations that happen daily among some of them. But others are a little bit less so in terms of daily coordination. I think that if we were to offer an opportunity to continue to have this centralized, but to require either MOUs or contracts from the individual entities, and the individual entities have indicated they'd be willing to do that, that we might have a chance to kind of even build on the coordination and collaboration and get even more for our money than we're already getting. I came away with the conclusion of looking at the dollars that we're spending, that this may be some of the best dollars that we spend in the county. Services like CASA, irreplaceable. Services like RSVP, the domestic violence services that are provided by Family Services and the YWCA. These are services that would cost us far, far more if we were trying to replace them. And so I would suggest that we vote this down, but not let it drop, that we continue to have it centralized, but we move towards a framework where Essentially, the county acts as a convener and brings all of the entities together, and we look for efficiencies that might happen between and among the agencies. Thank you.
Supervisor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I don't know if this question is for Supervisor Towns or not, but I'm looking at kind of, I guess, I don't know if the word is conglomerate of nonprofits on here that are listed. Are they considered the collective? And is this going to be the group of nonprofits that kind of is the collective that we're talking about? So I'm wondering if passing this resolution kind of solidifies that this is the group that is going to be a part of this collective? And if not, if we continue to move forward, is this the group? And if not, and we leave it the same way, does that still allow county administrator to be the person who chooses? Does that make sense? Are we solidifying that this is the group? These are the nonprofits.
So so if I understand your question, because I want to make sure we're all clear. So you're saying that the list before us today is that the group that we're going to be talking about, or are we leaving room for other agencies, other nonprofits who may not be on that list to apply as well? And I see you, Supervisor Gorman. I get to you. Let me just bring in Corp Counsel here, and then I'll get with you, Supervisor Gorman.
So that choice paradigm is not in front of you tonight. So what is in front of you tonight is the adoption of this resolution, which would change the policy with how nonprofit community initiatives are funded as articulated in the resolution, or if you vote it down, maintaining of the status quo, right? Those are the only two paradigms that are, one or the other is going to come out on top. So the status quo is that those organizations are funded, that are listed are currently funded out of the county administrator's budget. That was a change done in 2017 in response to this opinion from the Attorney General, with statutory citations to the justification for each one of those funding streams in order to make sure that we were behaving in alignment with the 2017 opinion of the Attorney General. That's the status quo. The change would be the elimination of that policy and a direction to department heads to investigate and then recommend any community initiatives that they thought appropriate to fund as a part of their budgetary submissions, right? So the way the budget is formulated, the county administrator asks each department to collate or collect all of their budget expenditures, submit them to the county administrator, and then the county administrator creates a budget, mostly from drawing on those things. Doesn't have to, I mean, he could draw one from scratch, but functionally it's drawn from the submissions of the department heads. So as a part of that submission process, department heads would have to make a choice. Am I gonna fund a nonprofit that is currently in the budget, or am I not? And they would submit that to the county administrator. At the end of the day, it's the county administrator's decision. He could insert them all into the budget, but it would be formulated as the kind of normal budget process of department head submission, county administrator decision. So those are the two things on the table.
Okay, and a follow-up. So under the way it's currently being done is requests come in, and then the county administrator has the right to go through and pick the organizations that the county administrator wants to fund under the way we're currently doing it.
Correct.
Okay.
I would be a little careful about to say requests come in. So over the last, I got here in 2017 when this practice changed, right? Literally the Attorney General opinion gets issued in the summer. I get this job in the fall. One of the first things that I do is meet with the county administrator to figure out how they're gonna manage this in the budget. And since that time, for the most part, the same organizations have been funded. And there was some changes to that during COVID, where we had some additional funds available that were given to additional organizations and more funds to the same organizations. But there haven't really been, it's not like there's an open application process or an advertisement for these funds. It has mostly been, just as a simple matter of fact, the same organizations each year that get funded.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Holman and Supervisor Gorman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In listening to the discussion tonight, Mr. Wilson had a very good point that I kind of started thinking about. And going off of his ideas, when you start dealing with all the departments and they get the requests that are before them about help for funding of nonprofits, they've already got enough things on their plate, let alone having to add more things to their plate. The county administrator has plenty on his docket too, but he builds a budget and then our departments work within that budget that is given to them. The only thing I'm looking at here is we're just basically shuffling it around, which isn't in effect basically more paperwork, and this department does this and this department does that, and then the county administrator does this, and then that comes to us and we say yes. It just seems like, isn't government getting a little bit more and more and more in this whole idea? Isn't it a little bit simpler if the county administrator has the requests before him, that he brings it to the county board, it comes up in budget, and from there it goes out to people who are going to get help with their charitable needs and wants? I mean, if we just keep going to departments, that's just more time all told on department heads to have to do something where they need to be spending more time on other things that they need to do in their department. Am I getting myself clear enough on this, or is there a question? Because it just seems to be more, you know, and sometimes more is not the best all the way around. Now, it's been said that maybe the status quo maybe is what it was and what it is. Status quo maybe need to be changed or modified a little bit. That's kind of where I think Mr. Wilson was kind of talking about. There's room for that. So that being said, I would surmise that that might be a good way to go. I can't see this thing going through right now in the way it is in my present form that I see.
Okay, thanks, Supervisor Gorman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to kind of clarify something that was said by Supervisor Towns earlier. I don't think the nonprofits that spoke earlier today are confused about this resolution. I think they've studied it and the implications very closely. And they, in fact, thanked us on the staff committee for not getting rid of the community initiative process, for not passing the resolution initially authored by Supervisor Schwartz. But in the time between when this resolution was initially introduced in committee and when it was passed by its committee, I think we've received a lot of information from these nonprofits, and the ones that authored the letter today, many of them spoke. They are not all the organizations that receive the community initiatives. These are specifically some organizations that might be impacted because they work across multiple departments, that their services might require them to get basically in the budgets of multiple departments. And and that there is potential in passing this resolution today for either through confusion or cuts or not finding a clear statutory authority that works for every one of those departments but does work countywide, that their funding could potentially be at risk. So I think, as we've just heard from Corporate Counsel Greenlee, we are in a compliance. We've been in compliance for the last 8 years with the Attorney General's opinion from 2017. We are completely legally compliant with the current policy as is. It doesn't need to be changed. This is a if it ain't broke, don't fix it situation. And at the same time, by passing this, we could potentially put funding for organizations that year after year have looked out for our most vulnerable families, helped seniors stay in their homes, and provided services that we as a county could not afford to do except in collaboration with them. So I am a no vote on this resolution, and I would encourage us to, I really appreciate Supervisor Wilson's diligence on this, and I think we should explore changes in the future, and I think the nonprofits have shown a real willingness to basically accommodate anything that we desire, but I do think that we should keep it within the administrator's budget and vote no on this.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Tillman. Tillman, did you? Okay, Supervisor Sutherland, did you have something? And then moving down the list.
He was first.
Okay, Supervisor Schwartz.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, we're still in the same position. Right now, these funds are unrestricted, and they really need to be for contracted services. If the departments aren't the ones that are driving what needs to be done, then I actually don't see any problem with this resolution. Right, we already do coordination across departments, and that would continue. These funds that are going out are not going to these joint efforts now. They're just going into the pot of money that a nonprofit gets, and there's no feedback other than when it's questioned as to what is going on with that money. This would not affect CASA, it would not affect all these others. They may have to find other sources of money or get specific contracts in place. And that, at the end of the day, is where we need to get to. And I think the best place to do that is at the departmental level because they're the ones that are dealing with the issues every day. So, thank you.
Supervisor Sutherland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I recall, at the end of last year's budget, there was a motion to pull the funding from all nonprofits, period. And it was voted down. This coming around again seems to me like an end around. I haven't heard one iota of information that any of these nonprofit organizations have frauded anybody, anyone. I haven't heard anything like that. In fact, on the contrary, what I've heard from them is how much money that they can raise with matching grants, how much they can do with what little we're talking about. We're talking less than 1% of our budget. And by putting all this regulation, all this fluff, you're just putting a wrench in the cog. I mean, I am just appalled that we would even think about this. And furthermore, it's not illegal. I watched that WCA seminar, and the volumes of, you could take one section, find something, and you could go, they went on and on and on. We're in compliant. We are not doing anything illegal. Thank you.
Supervisor Woodman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too have studied this quite a bit. And I think we are in a gray area. And I do think this resolution addresses that. It doesn't mean that the administrator can't make suggestions to the departments. But if it comes through the departments with an MOU, then we know we're in compliance. And I think that's where this resolution is coming from. Nobody's accusing anybody of doing anything wrong. It's just how this has been looked at from an opinion from the state. And I think that, personally, I think this is the right way to go. It may be a little more work, but I think that in the end, we'll be better for it. Thank you.
Supervisor Bostwick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for Mr. Light. Would keeping the funding for the community initiatives in the administrative budget be anything that would be considered problematic from your point of view?
No.
Okay. I tend to agree with Supervisor Wilson, and I've thought about this quite a bit. I voted for this resolution in committee, and I've had other information come to me since. And I think Supervisor Wilson's idea of keeping things the way they are, but tweaking them to create a framework that allows for better collaboration between the agencies and therefore more efficiencies is a good way to go. At the end of it all, the county board will vote yes or no whether these agencies get money or not. I mean, that's the bottom line. So, thank you.
Supervisor Raskin?
Thank you, Chair.
This resolution should be opposed because it reduces public accountability, weakens community partnerships, and centralizes power in a way that risks undermining long-standing local service networks. Here's why. First, it cuts off direct access to community agencies. The resolution eliminates the existing process that allows local nonprofits and agencies to apply directly for funding. These groups often serve vulnerable populations and address critical gaps in service. Removing their direct line to the board restricts transparency and makes funding dependent on internal departmental policies and priorities, not community needs. Second, unnecessarily consolidates control. Under this proposal, all funding decisions for community services must pass through department heads and county administrator. That creates a bottleneck and gives disproportionate control to unelected officials, reducing the board's oversight and responsiveness to citizens. Third, it removes predictability for trusted local partners. Many community agencies have proven track records. This policy introduces uncertainty by making clear that no continuity of funding is expected, even for effective and long-serving organizations. That makes planning, hiring, and service delivery harder and risks breaking trust with those doing vital work on the ground. Fourth, frames community funding with unnecessary suspicion. Although amended, the original language referring to random amounts for non-specific activities reflects a dismissive attitude toward community partnerships. Rather than strengthening oversight, this approach undermines respect for public service role these agencies play. What should be done? Well, Supervisor Wilson's idea. Reform the current process, don't eliminate it. Improve evaluation, clarify performance expectations, and ensure all funding aligns with strategic goals. But maintain a system where community voices can still be heard directly and where the board retains the ability to fund what matters most to residents. This resolution takes a sledgehammer to a system that needs a scalpel. It reduces access, centralizes decisions, and damages long-term relationships with trusted local organizations. For those reasons, it should be voted down. Thank you.
Supervisor Fugelseth.
Thank you, Chair. I have questions for council. Could any monies that come in, whether they go out via the administrator or the different departments, be considered an unrepresented tax?
No, I don't. I mean, I guess I'm not sure what an unrepresented tax, if you mean that the expenditure of tax funds without appropriate oversight from elected officials. No, they're a part of the budget. They're approved in the budget. The board approves the budget.
Okay, thank you. Second question. In terms of transparency, if the county received an open records request on money that was given to any nonprofit and what the return on investment was for the county, currently, would we be able to provide that if someone had an open records request, number one?
So we would be able to provide, of course, our expenditure activity. So all records of the money that's gone out the door would be available and producible. You know, return on investment is a pretty vague term. So just in general, you know, it's not as if these monies are going into interest-bearing savings accounts, right? They're being expended for services. So what is the return? The return is service delivery. And so I don't know that we would be able to even define like what a return on investment would be.
So
There is a, go ahead. No, that's totally fine.
So return on investment then would be the contracting purposes.
So
What goods are provided, what services are provided, how many dollars were spent, how many dollars did that generate, how many people were served, and I think that would be a really great way to show the constituency, since it's their tax dollars, that they are being spent appropriately and transparently and for a purpose that is for the well-being of the county. Thank you.
So, yeah, I can answer kind of in twofold. So one, there's a provision in the Public Records Act that applies to subcontractors. So subcontractor records are subject to public records disclosure. They would not be, at this point in time, many of them would not be considered subcontractors. We don't expect deliverables in that same way from these organizations as we would from like J.P. Cullen, who we're contracting for to construct the jail and law enforcement services project. That being said, we have made requests from all of these nonprofits to articulate how they have used our funds and how it has benefited the county. And many of them, I think all of them, although I can't speak to that for sure because I haven't reviewed what they returned, but most of them, all of them returned information about how they've expended their funds. So I don't want to say, oh no, they wouldn't tell us, because they have told us. And I think it's important that that also be highlighted. But could we legally force them right now today to tell us exactly how each one of our dollars was spent? The answer to that question is probably no.
Supervisor Stevens?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And what council just spoke about was what I was going to ask about. So being someone who runs a nonprofit, I completely understand the folks who spoke about this initiative, where they're coming from. I would love to be able to ask for money and not have to write a grant and not have to wait 3 months to hear back and not have to wait for a group of people to sit and decide whether I'm going to get funding. I would love that. So I get their desire to be able to just ask the county administrator for the funding and not have to jump through the hoops and not have to wait months for an answer and all that. I completely get that. So I obviously support their desire to not have that changed. With that said, I have never gotten a grant from a government entity without having to sign some kind of an agreement, some kind of an MOU, some kind of something, report my impact, and be required, now that Corp Council has said that we're not required to do that. I've never gotten a grant from any kind of a government entity where I have not been required to provide that as a part of compliance issue. So I would be interested in that changing. So kind of a compromise where we don't take it out of the county administrator's hands, but we do implement something where we get those reports, we see where the money is spent, and we have some kind of a documented compliance so that people feel better. Because I think I heard something from Supervisor Schwartz about, we don't know where the money is being spent. We're not asking for reports. Because there's been a couple of times where we've provided funding to people, and I'm like, weren't they supposed to come back in a year and tell us what's going on? We ain't seen them. It's been 2 years. But we asked them to come back in a year and give us a report, and we haven't seen these people, and it's been 2 years. So there have been a couple of times where I've kind of scratched my head and asked. So I think that if we could come to some kind of a compromise where we don't take it out of county administrator's hands and we say, hey, let him make that decision. However, I would like to see reporting, and it's required. So I don't know if we can move to do that, or if Supervisor Towns would be interested in making some kind of an amendment here, but that's just what I have to say.
Before we go there, let me, because I want to make sure that we're all clear, because I hear what you're saying, and I think what I'm hearing is several people are sharing that we need some form of accountability, lack of a better term, of where our funds are going. So I would ask Corp Counsel and maybe the county administrator as well, for clarity on that, do we necessarily have to put that in a form of a motion, or could we, since we already have something in place, let's say this get voted up or down, to then instruct the county administrator to come up with a plan to implement how we put that into his job description when he's considering, or when he's awarding the funds, this is a requirement to receive it. So I want to make sure that we clear and not vote on something if we don't need to, if that makes sense. If we can just say, we act on this, and then whichever way this goes, we can direct the county administrator to say, okay, when the funds go out, here's what we require in return. But before we even answer that, I want you to ponder on that, because I want to Supervisor Raskin had his hand up, but I just want to be clear here, Supervisor Raskin. If you're going to call the question, I want to hear their answer first. So I want to put that out there first, because I think when always moving forward, I always want people to be clear on what we're going to vote on. So before we say let's call the question, I think I need to hear that, because I want everybody to be clear on where we're going. So I don't know which one of you wants to.
Me? Okay. So I'll do the legal side of it, which then will necessitate some information, I think, from the county administrator. So legally, in terms of behavior of the board, you have some options in front of you, right? The most stark and clear one is just simply vote yes, vote no. Vote no if you want the status quo. Vote yes if you want to change the policy as reflected in the resolution. If you want to do something else, you have a few different options. So one would be to make a motion to recommit the resolution, which would be to send it back to committee. So you'd recommit it back to County Board Staff Committee. They could take another swipe at doing an amendment if there was some consensus around a way to amend it. I will say the most prominent form of amendment I am hearing is keep the status quo, increase the reporting requirements. That amendment is not super consistent with the body of the resolution. And it would be, I would need a few hours to dissect the resolution, figure out what to cross out, add language. So I don't think that would be the simplest amendment in the world to execute. But it could be done. Like, you could recommit the resolution back to committee. The committee could have another discussion. They could hash out the way to amend it. You know, they could do that. Another way to execute on that is simply to vote down the resolution to keep the status quo and hope that the feelings that you have made clear as a part of this debate are followed by the county administrator. And I'll let John talk about that in a minute. And then the other way to do it would be to vote down this resolution and bring forth a different resolution that amended the policy in whatever way you wanted, right? If you want to enforce policy upon the county administrator and department heads, then the way that the board does that is by setting policy and voting on that policy. You can make your feelings known. You can appear to arrive at some consensus. You can even say out loud, we direct the county administrator to do X. But until you pass a resolution, it is not binding policy on staff. So that's your mechanism to do that. So if that is really what you want to keep the status quo, but you want a new policy that has some more teeth to it about articulating deliverables, reporting requirements, auditing requirements, whatever it is that you want, then that would really need to come from a resolution if you wanted it to have teeth. However, the county administrator could do all of those things because he could hear you and hear that's what you want without you setting it as policy. And now I will let John talk about whatever he wants to talk about.
I echo everything Rich has said, shared with you. It's simply, if you want to direct me to do it, then I report to you. I can make those things happen, or you can pass a resolution. Or we can send it back to committee, all the things that Mr. Greenlee shared with you.
Okay, so, I know you're waiting. So we heard several options and moves, but I want to be clear. So the less complicated, the less debunkle way to doing this, in my opinion, would be one to, I'm not trying to direct anybody on what to do, but possibly sit it back for further discussion, further development, listening to the discussion tonight, adding a little bit more teeth to it, and with the expectations of more reporting or whatever we heard here tonight, maybe having Corp Counsel and the county administrator and the county board staff get together and review it again. That's, I'm thinking, is what I'm hearing is the most easiest, simplest way, but I'm not saying that's the direction we go. I'm just simply saying if we're confused and saying what in the world are we going to do, that's a lack of better terminology, that's the easy way out. Now, we don't always want to take the easy way out, but we have to do something this evening. we have to do something this evening, and maybe to just complicate things a little bit more, because it's me tonight. I just have, so Corp Counsel, basically what we're doing now, because we heard different discussion and some people may be confused, what we are doing now that's in place, are we legal or not legal? Because I'm hearing both sides.
So, how do you answer this question? There's no reason to believe that what we're currently doing is in violation of the law. So the one, I want to be very clear. The law itself has not changed. There's been no change to the law itself. In 2017, and this all stems from long-standing vagueness and uncertainty in the distinction between the constitutional home rule authority that cities and villages act under versus the statutory home rule authority that counties act under. And if you want a legal treatise or history lesson about the development of that law, I am certainly happy to give it to you. Call me up. I'll talk to you on the phone. It's not very exciting. That being said, in 2017, the Attorney General issued an opinion directly concerning the expenditure of tax levy by Shawano County on food banks. They were funding a food bank. And in doing so, the Attorney General articulated that that particular expenditure was not supported by the statutory authority that Shawano County offered, and therefore was not an allowable expenditure under Chapter 59 of the Wisconsin statutes. So there has been no court since then or before that has articulated that the expenditures that are being expended by Rock County are not allowed. So let's be very clear about that. There's not been a court or an entity that has specifically identified the expenditures that we are doing and saying that those expenditures are not allowed under the law. There is some risk because of the limited home rule authority of counties that if we did not have sufficient statutory justification for those expenditures, they could be determined to not be allowed by a court if we got sued. But since 2017, I am not aware of any taxpayer lawsuit that has gone after a county for these kinds of expenditures. So that is how I can answer your question. I cannot get any more certain about whether we are following the law or not following the law than what I have just told you.
Okay. One final question that Supervisor Gorman and then Supervisor Raskin. So to the county administrator, if you would, so the funds that's set aside now in your budget, if this was to go over to the departments to allocate the funds out, how is that pot of money going to be divided up amongst the departments? And part B to that question is, if I'm a department head and I'm already in a tight budget year and I need money for this, is what I need the money for over here going to take priority over, can the money that I need over here take priority over the money that's set aside for community community organizations, which means they don't get it because I used this fund that I didn't plan on getting. Now I have it. I use it for something else. Is that possible to happen?
The answer to your last question is yes. It is possible that that could happen. That is the department head's discretion. And following the spirit of this, that's what is being given to department heads, that discretion to make those decisions within their budget. Now, that budget is proposed, it goes through the county administrator, and ultimately is approved by the board. So yes, is the short answer.
Got it.
Yes.
See, I knew when I asked that question, we going to continue a little bit. Okay, I have to do this, and I apologize. So Supervisor Raskin's been very patient. And Supervisor Raskin.
All right. Well, thank you for great ideas there. I will say that it seems that the board will see some of this to answer the questions. The board will see some of this information during the budget process, but only if it's included in a department's final budget request approved by the county administrator. Unlike the previous system, there is no direct line item for community agency funding, making it harder to track or amend. The process appears to be technically subject to open records and open meeting laws, but much of the decision-making happens internally before public disclosure, meaning less transparency and reduced public oversight unless someone actively digs. So I will say that I guess I will make a amendment to send this back to a committee for rework, and hopefully the voting record will indicate that it needs to be reworked quite substantially.
So we do have a motion and a second to send this back to committee for some rework.
With apologies.
So let's vote on that first. Any questions on the amendment? Supervisor Gorman?
Just can Supervisor, not Supervisor, former Councilman Greenlee speak to, do an amendment that just like directs the committee to do something? It seems like this isn't a change in the active policy.
Okay, you're.
I would just also say that,
Your microphone's not on. Can you turn your microphone on?
that the actual simplest solution, which I think it sounded like you were seeking to deal with this, and we're both members of the staff committee, I feel comfortable speaking for the majority of the staff committee, we will be talking about this and exploring this, and if necessary, introducing a fresh, clean resolution. But as corporate counsel went into, this resolution as written has very little resemblance of any kind to what the board has kind of talked about as a consensus tonight. And it would be trying to change one thing into another thing. I wish I had a more colorful metaphor, but so I do think the best thing we can do tonight is, if this amendment is valid, vote it down and then vote no on the resolution and have the staff committee and the administrator, hearing the clear intent of the board tonight, start from scratch with something clean.
But I hear you, and so the direction that I was going to go in as well is say when we send it back to staff committee, I want to make sure that we are clear on what we want the staff committee to do and make sure, and I was going to kind of yield to Supervisor Boswick, who chairs that committee, and say, are we clear on when it comes back to you, what we're looking for based on this discussion? So I'll get to Supervisor Towns in just a second here, but what I want to also understand is I think the amendment that's saying send it back to county board staff, I think what we talked about here could be talked about based on that amendment of sending it back, because they're sending it back for more teeth, more clarification. So I think it would be, if Supervisor Raskin would have said, I wanted to go back to county board staff, and these are just the things I want to talk about. But I think by sending it back, that's opening the door for county board staff to take a look at it and seeing, based on this discussion, what we need to do. Is that clear? But Supervisor Towns?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a little confused too. First of all, I do want to clarify that I never said what we do is illegal. Several people have said that, and that's not what I said at all. And so I'm not clear, if you send it back to committee, you can't send it back to committee and insist that they do something with it.
Correct. So I was going to mention this, and I didn't want to interrupt the chair, but you can, so I would construe what Supervisor Raskin's motion, I would construe as a motion to recommit, meaning it goes back to the county board staff committee. Once it's at county board staff committee can do whatever it wants. Right. It could vote no on it, then it could, vote it down at committee, and then it would never come back to the board. It could amend it. It could postpone it indefinitely. It could, really any of the powers that the committee has, it could exercise against the resolution anew. So certainly it's fair to give pronouncements about expectations and to give the members of the county board staff committee some idea about where the board sits in terms of the things that it wants, but they're not binding. You can't direct the county board staff committee to do X, Y, Z. You can just say, we'd like you to explore this resolution again. We're not done with it. We think it might have merit, but in its current form, we're not ready to pass it. Everyone's listened to the discussion. Please go change it in a way that you now think it could pass the board.
One final comment, if I might. Thank you. Also, one of the concerns I think I've heard here tonight, other than who gets to decide This resolution was based on the services that we needed, not the organization that got the money. And right now, and I think I've heard a concern from a couple supervisors in this discussion that the same organizations always get the money and no one else gets a chance to really be considered. And so that was one of the things that I hope this resolution took care of, that we looked at the services that were needed and who could provide them in a cost-effective way, rather than just giving money that's unlabeled to an organization, and same organizations every year get money. And so I would hope that whoever wants to carry the ball on this would consider that also.
Okay, Supervisor Holman?
Again, thank you, Mr. Chair. What I'm seeing by our debate, and it's been very good debate, and the thing I'm looking at right now, this is a yes or no vote. Thumbs up, thumbs down on this vote. And then after we make a decision on what we're doing, as far as thumbs up, thumbs down, then we go back to where we're going to go with it then, correct? Am I correct in my surmising?
I'm sorry, the county board chair was in my ear, so I didn't hear the beginning of your question. Could you restate it?
I'm talking important stuff here, holy moly. But no, it's a thumbs up, thumbs down vote right now, is before us right now. This is what I just said. So after a thumbs up, thumbs down vote, then we can go clarify to where we want to go from there, correct? Am I right or wrong?
So Supervisor Rashkin's motion, seconded by Supervisor Stevens, is to recommit. If you vote in favor of that, no more discussion tonight. The resolution will go back to the County Board Staff Committee. It will be on probably the next agenda, although it's up to the chair when it gets agendized. And then County Board Staff Committee will get a second shot about what it wants to do with that resolution.
So it's no longer a yes or no vote. It's more or less either it's a no vote or we're going to say we're going to recommit.
If you vote yes to recommit and it's successful, it will go back to committee. If you vote no to recommit and the no votes prevail, then we will continue the discussion that we are having right now. It's like a motion to postpone, right? So you're postponing it, and then you're postponing it, you're sending it to the committee.
All right, thank you.
Everybody clear? We have a motion and a second to recommit. All those, we're going to do this by roll call. Yes, we're going to do this by roll call. So everyone have your little. All right, this is roll call to send it, basically send it back to committee or recommit. Please vote at this time.
Supervisor Ryan?
Yep, she voted.
Okay. So 17 yes, 10 no. So that gets sent back to committee.
Yes. Thank you very much. And next item.
All right. Next item is, we need to do this by roll call vote also, but I'd like to do 12 and 13 separately, but right after each other. So this is, item 12 is executive session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85, sub 1, sub E, to deliberate on the negotiation of the sale of public property, the Rock County Healthcare Center, whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session.
All those in favor?
Nope, roll
Is there a
call.
motion?
Yep, we need a motion.
Motion by Woodman, is there a second? Second by Mawini, please vote. Going into closed session. We need a roll call because we got to go into
It has to be a roll call.
executive session and it has to be a roll call. So all in favor of going into
also Gorman?
I had to push mine twice too, so I think it's delayed, I don't know.
So I'd also like to do 13, to go into executive session per section 19.85, sub 1, sub G, Wisconsin statutes, conferring with legal counsel concerning strategy to be adopted by the board regarding litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved concerning the workers' compensation claim of Sarah Vance.
Is there a motion? Motion by Mawini, second by Knutson. Please vote at this time. Yeah, no, we got
this is-
two.
this- there's
We got two. Yeah,
Separate, we have to do it twice. I will clear the screen, give me
Yeah.
a second.
yeah.
So you can go ahead and vote. Supervisor Rashkin and Stevens. Thank you. You need a new battery? I'll check yours. So 27 to 2 to go into closed session.
27-0.
Yes, 20.